I've been in public relations and media for over 20 years. During that time, there is no situation I haven't covered, no industry I haven't been involved with. You can also imagine during that time that I haven't had one boring day. So my job is not only to be aware of the news, but my job is to keep a few steps ahead of the news. My conversation tonight is about being media worthy and writing a great press release. The two go hand in hand. If you are already media worthy, that means the media is looking for you, or the media is ringing me, asking me to set up an interview for you. Or like many of my clients, we're dealing in issues and crisis management. But what happens most of the time is you have a product or a service. You might be something like a service industry, a recruitment company, or you have invented a new IT widget. So most of the time you are trying to flog your story to the media. The first step of doing this is to feel the pulse of your journalist. The first thing he will be thinking of is the SFW factor. For tonight's audience, I'll just tell you that that is the so what factor. Because as soon as you ring him or send him anything, he is thinking SFW. The first step over that line is the est word. Biggest, longest, fastest, most, lightest, heaviest, all the est words. So now you've got some ests. Now you have to find your hook or your angle. You're pitching to a journalist. So what you're looking for, or what he's looking for from you, is your unique point of difference. Currency, impact, timeliness, prominence, proximity, novelty, human interest and conflict. If we don't have any of those news values, we're looking at our SFW, our est factor, and we're looking at how we can achieve them. So now you've got an idea of how to write your press release. You don't want to be offering up a self-serving word soup of superlatives. You want to think about the words you're using. All journalists are wordsmiths. We care about words more than we care about anything. Think about the words you're using. There's a journalist, an IT journalist, who is always wanting to write about an IT story with the word fecund in it. There was another guy, what was his favourite word? Torpor. So I gave him a workplace story about torpor in the workplace. Whilst there are many words that they like, there's also many words that they hate. There's a method to telling your story, and it's quite an easy acronym to remember. It's the SEX acronym. Somebody got it. So sell it to me, give me the evidence, and then explain it. Now the challenge is, of course, to get your perfectly crafted press release across the line to your disinterested journalist. You're sending something to someone you already know because you've been reading his byline, you've been reading what he's been writing. Also what you've been doing is you've been building up a relationship with him. So you might have to pitch by email, or you might be lucky enough to pitch by phone. If you are lucky enough to find someone on the phone, you've got seconds to get that message across. I'm ringing because there's $5 billion, the government's wasting $5 million on its websites. Do you want to hear about it? Oh yes, I want to hear about that. There are a lot of don'ts when you're talking to journalists. Don't ever call a journalist on deadline. Ring up and find out when the deadlines are. Don't call them when they're in media conference. Sydney Morning Herald has media conference between 10 and 11. That's when they get told what they're going to do for the rest of the day. So you don't want to call them before that because they don't know. So between 11 and 12 o'clock is a good idea to call the Sydney Morning Herald. The other really awful thing to say is once you've been interviewed is, when will my story run? Because somehow you've made this massive assumption that everything you've said has just been so interesting that it is actually going to run.